About this love. About this. About this love. About this love. Love. How you guys doing today? You are tuning into About This Love podcast with myself, Dale Skinner, and wife Charel. Say what's up to the peoples.
Hey.
And today's topic, we wanted to talk about Steven Jackson, his most recent Instagram live video that he did that went viral. Talking about how he left his girlfriend at the altar because she wouldn't sign a prenup. But before we do, we wanted to let you guys know that we are now on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and TuneIn Radio. So definitely subscribe to us, follow us on one of those platforms. Without further ado, let's get it cracking. So I actually had sent my wife the video via YouTube. I had seen it on YouTube. I will say I'm not familiar with Steven Jackson. I'm familiar with his podcast host. Was it Barnes? And I'm only familiar with him because I watched Basketball Wives of Atlanta. I'm tripping. Of Los Angeles, like years ago, and he was on there for a couple episodes. So I was pretty much familiar with him because of that. I don't watch basketball. I usually only watch football and the NFL only at that, not college. So I'm not really familiar with NBA players, but I know he said he was a former NBA player. So I watched the video. I thought it was recent, but as he began to just to discuss the details of what had happened with his girlfriend in the prenup, I realized that it probably was over a decade ago just for whatever reasons. But for those who didn't know, basically he talked about how he had met this young lady. I believe it was in New York. I don't really recall where he was at, but I guess he was getting traded to another team. He met this young lady. They started dating. He got transferred, or he got traded to another team somewhere down south. She moved with him, yada, yada, yada. As time passed, their relationship got pretty intimate. So they decided to get married. At that point, they had already had a wedding date planned. And he had, I guess along the way, had reminded her a few times to get a prenup, to sign it. They had already discussed the prenup. And I guess over the course of, months, he had reminded her a few times to get the prenup to sign it. I guess, it got to the wedding day. She still hadn't signed it. I guess at that point, he realized that she wasn't going to sign it. So he just decided to walk out on her at the wedding with people probably there from out of town. And he decided just to roll out. With that being said, Sherelle, what's your woman take on that?
My woman take on it?
Yeah.
I don't think that I have a particular woman take on it per se. I think it's just, it'll just be my perspective, because hearing the story, I was wondering why you sent it to me at first, and I was just like, well, what did you want me to get from this? And then I was thinking like, okay, I actually see what you wanted to talk about, because I know oftentimes you and I will look at other people's relationships and look at other people's marriages or lack thereof, and we'll just talk about it and not assess it per se, but we would try to pick it apart and see okay, why is it crumbling? Why is it failing? Or why did they not make it to, the starting line of marriage? And so just listening to a story, I thought it was very sad. It was sad because, whenever, I don't make as nearly as much money as Steven Jackson, obviously, but
Used to make.
Used to make.
Retired, yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know, but I don't make as much money as him. And, I don't know what it's like to get into, going to a marriage where, a prenup would be involved. But I guess essentially broke people get prenups or postnups as well. And in their mind is to protect one another. But like I said, I think the whole situation is sad because, didn't you say they had children together?
I think they had one, yeah.
Oh, so they have a child together. Yeah, so I think it's sad, for the child that they're not together. It's sad for the family who spent their time and money and had hopes of, getting together. And I think for them, the relationship itself that wasn't able to even, take off into a marriage relationship, I am sad for that relationship. And some things just aren't meant to be. And I've read stories of other people walking away because, it just didn't feel right. They left the other person at the altar, so to speak, because they just kept, getting red flags or whatever. But in his case, he has the prenup situation. And from what he was saying, it sounded as though he probably already felt that she was a gold digger. and he loved her, but it was almost like he didn't want to lose his money.
Yeah, I was thinking that he loved his money more than he loved her.
Yeah, and it feels that way, and it's like, yeah, I worked hard, I got all this money, but it's almost like, actually, I seen, what is his name? It's a rapper. Fat Joe did an interview some months back. I don't remember where he was, but basically he talked about how, just to enjoy life. And he didn't go into too much of a detail or whatever, but he was saying like, enjoy life, just go out there and enjoy life because, and enjoy your family because money can come and go. And he said that he had gotten into a situation where a judge had determined that he would have to pay all of this money. And basically the judge like used him as an example and took all of his assets, took all of his money. And he was like flat broke. And, he was down for a minute about it, but then he realized he can get that money back. But what he can't get back is his wife, his children, his family, his health, things like that. And I was sitting there like, wow, someone who, on the outside, we are looking in at someone who is, famous or apparently has a lot of money or what we would consider to be a lot of money. He had come to realize that the only thing that really matters is his family. And you can always get that money back. You can always make that back. You got, as long as you live in, you can make that money back. So in Steven Jackson's situation, it was like, you love your money because if you truly love that person, what if y'all lose it all? Like in a house fire or, anything could happen. But you're worried about losing it all to this woman or to her family or whatever the scenario is, to the point where you're not even going to proceed in a relationship. So that money is the only thing that's going to keep y'all from getting together. Because then,
getting married. They are already together.
Well, yeah, they were together. But so you're not going to pursue a relationship because she didn't sign the prenup. That's all I kept hearing. And then as he was like telling his story, he was saying it as like, oh, mic drop, boom. And so that happened. And, the preacher that she wanted or the pastor that she wanted to marry us, it's because he tried to say that he don't believe in prenups. And, if it's God, then basically he tried to say that she knew what she was doing, and she may have, but if you have all of these like theories about a person and you're already not trusting them, not trusting their decisions, like going up to the altar, it's like, why are you even continuing in on that?
Well, here's what I think. It's a few things. One is that I'm not a millionaire, nowhere close to it. Hope to be there one day. But what I will say is I don't know how it feels to have that kind of money and people be after you, and like not really know who to trust. Two, she agreed from what he said in the video, she agreed to sign the prenup. Now, what I think was that maybe there should have been a date way before the wedding that they agreed to, that by which it had to be signed by, let's say, a week before the wedding, so that they didn't have to get to the wedding day and then decide, well, I want to marry you because you ain't signed a prenup. I think that probably because she was being kind of procrastinating a lot. There probably was red flags that she probably wasn't going to sign the prenup or didn't want to sign the prenup, which was fine. If that was the case, then if he and her had that conversation, then if she didn't want to sign the prenup, then maybe they would have just stayed boyfriend and girlfriend and not tried to go to marriage. I felt like with me, there's just a lot of things that were not done. No, I don't agree or believe in getting prenups. But then again, I'm not a millionaire. I'm not a millionaire marrying somebody that probably makes $35,000 a year. So I don't. I don't know. No, what I'm saying is it's hard to say what you believe or what you would do because you're not in that situation. Like I said, these guys are probably getting paid $30 million a year to play basketball. So it's like, you're marrying somebody that probably works at Walmart or
daggone well.
But what I'm saying is that they make $30,000 a year. Even if you're a doctor or a lawyer, you're not making what they're making. So
wait,
it's like,
they make $30,000 or $30 million?
I'm sorry, they make $30 million a year. I'm assuming some more than that. But what I'm saying is, if you make that kind of money and you're marrying somebody who does not, of course, you look at it as if it's a liability because most marriages do what? In divorce. So I totally understand his perspective, but I also feel like they should have went about it a different way. Like if it was me, but it wasn't, the prenup should have had to been signed way before the wedding date, like at least a week or two before the wedding day. That would have been the criteria in the prenuptial agreement, that it had to be signed 2 weeks before the wedding.
Wait, so just to get this straight, the prenup would have had to been signed by a certain date, but are you like not paying attention to the fact that there was no mention of like marriage counseling? Because like if there was marriage counseling, I feel as though in marriage counseling, they would have worked out whatever it was, you know, the uncertainties that they would have had about one another, about the money, about trust. And not that like you're going to go into marriage like fully trusting somebody, and especially in his industry, but I mean, if I'm honest, it goes back to like, how do you know that you'll be able to trust someone, or how do you know you'll be able to truly like love them?
You don't. You're rolling the dice. I mean, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. When you do not live for the Lord, you know, and you're kind of ruled by your emotions, or
You're winging it.
how much money you make, or your investments, or you don't
Or
know.
looks.
Like if we're honest, you don't know. I mean, I think everybody goes into a situation, a believer, non-believer, atheist, you know, Buddhist, whatever. Everybody goes into a situation, or marriage, or a job, believing that they're going to succeed, believing that they're going to, you know, do better and be there for a long time. The reality is that's not the case.
Not everyone goes into, I don't think everyone goes into marriage that way. Maybe some other situations, but I think marriage is a little bit different, only because it's like, oh, well, I'll try this out and we'll see how it goes. And I say that because I've heard people say that about dating. Like, okay, well, I'm just going to try this person out. I'm going to try that person out, see how it goes. And if it don't work out, then, I mean, I'll give it like
different.
a year.
I think dating is different, because I said it because nowadays what you call dating to most people is just having sex. That's it. So it's
Okay,
like, if you have that mindset, yeah, I'll try her out, try him out, but yeah.
Well, some people actually do want to still date, and when they do date, it's like I'm kicking it. I'm hanging out with somebody, like I'm spending time with someone, and if it work out, it work out. If it don't, then I mean, at least we had some good times and some memories. And I mean, whatever comes along is just what comes along. I don't think that people really go into relationships nowadays like with a full heart, knowing that like, okay, I'm gonna give my all. I think they put a toe in.
Not everybody. I mean, you can't say that for everybody.
I'm not saying it for everyone, but but you also can't say for everyone about like they knew what it was.
No, I'm saying they go into it with the mindset to succeed. I mean, I think the majority of other people do. I don't think people do. The majority of other people do. Like, unless you have an arranged marriage, you know, I think the majority of the people do go into a marriage or a job or whatever, you know, believing that they're going to succeed, believing that they're going to grow. I mean, I think they do.
I don't think everyone does. Like,
I didn't say everyone does.
And I didn't say everyone, you know, goes in there half-hearted, but you know, we're just saying two opposite things. You know what I'm saying? But I do hear you. And I'm saying that because, you know, like people just want to try things out. They want to see where it goes. I feel like some people take that mindset about marriage as well. Like, okay, I'm going to try this out. Because for a person like Steven Jackson to have his family being flown out, he mentioned his family was flown out. You know, he listed everyone who was paid, you know, this was paid for, that was paid for. He said he spent $400,000 on the wedding. For him to throw that down the drain because of a piece of paper, because of a prenup. I mean, you can always get postnuptials. You can always do a postnuptial. If you really wanted to be with someone, you would walk away from that type of event on that scale and the amount of people that probably was out there just to witness them, you know, get married, and you're just gonna let that, you know, go away over some paper, over a prenup, when you can always go and get a postnup.
If you're concerned about your money in the bank, yes, you
I
will.
mean, unless they get well, I understand that, but you know, if he was really looking into the laws, then if he really was paying attention to the law and concerned about his money, like I said, there should have been some like premarital counseling to ensure that, you know, they were on the same page about a lot of things. And it didn't sound like it was. It just sounded like they were already together, and it's like, hey, I guess naturally the next step is we should get married, and so let's get married. It seemed like it was one of those things.
I mean, I feel you. I mean, I wouldn't say that I necessarily care to say that they should have got counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying it because, like, oftentimes I feel like we as believers, whenever we judge a situation or we judge someone's actions, yes, we judge it from the standpoint from the Lord of righteousness. But looking at his situation, I don't think the man was even believing. I mean, the man was on camera smoking 4 or 5 blunts. I don't think God was nowhere in his.
I didn't say God.
Well, what I'm saying, when you say marriage counseling, it's like, well, why would I get marriage counseling if I don't believe in God? Oftentimes, marriage counseling is tied to people's faith. Not always. He did mention he had a pastor, yada yada yada. I mean, again, he was on camera.
He said it was his like family pastor or something like that.
Again, he was on camera smoking like 4 or 5 blunts. I don't know, what kind of counseling or what, just the validity of his faith in anything, But my whole point is, I'm looking at it from the perspective of, I would say, probably a non-believer. I understand, what he was doing. I get it from his perspective.
You get which part? The reason why he walked away?
No. I'm saying I understand why he wanted a prenuptial agreement.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I understand. Like oftentimes, I feel like we judge things from our perspective, from our living room, from our seat, from our car. It's like, but when if you're actually able to get into the mindset of someone who has that kind of money, like I was watching YouTube. It was a finance guy. He was talking about how people were like, this was like years ago, people were going off on Jay-Z because he blew like 90 grand into a nightclub, and the guy broke down how much he's worth and how much. He said, listen, Jay-Z going in a club blowing 90 grand is equivalent to him blowing $40. He was like, he's a billionaire, like, almost a billionaire.
Mm-hmm. I've heard
90 grand is nothing to him. It's nothing. It's $40 to him. It's nothing to him.
Well, no.
So what I'm saying is that to judge what he did from the perspective of someone who makes 50 grand a year, it's like, dude, this man is worth millions of dollars. He probably was getting paid, like I said, $30-40 million a year to play professional basketball. If you actually think he was going to marry somebody, who could potentially come out of his money, if the relationship went sideways, then you think again. He did what anybody would have done in that situation, and that's what I believe. Now, would I have done it? No, because I feel like to get a prenuptial agreement with somebody, and this is just my opinion, I'd be like, there's already a level of I don't trust you. So it's like if I don't trust somebody, why would I even want to go through with marriage with them anyways?
But that's why I brought up the marriage counseling.
To date them. But marriage counseling...
Well, what I'm saying, I mean, but, okay, there's different types of marriage counselors. Like, you don't necessarily always have to go to, like, a pastor.
Yeah, I know.
And so that's why I said, like, even on a surface level, like, you can call up someone, that you find online and who's a marriage counselor or a family counselor and talk with them.
Yeah, maybe. I mean... I don't know. I mean, maybe a counselor may be able to help them with that, but I don't think that will help them in the sense of if he already has in his mind set that he wants to get a prenup. I don't think there's nothing a counselor is going to say is going to change that, because one of the pastors that his fiance had chosen, he didn't believe in prenups, and he even told him that. And he was like, man, miss me with all that. But this of course was before he was about to just leave the wedding venue. So I don't think that really matters in the sense of the prenup decision. I think it does matter if you're talking about trust and maybe if there was some infidelity in the relationship, but I don't think as it relates to him wanting to get a prenup to protect his money, I don't think he probably cares what anyone has to say about that, because he's trying to protect his own interests, which is his money, because he obviously if you're marrying somebody who doesn't bring to the table what you bring, you could see that as a liability, which is probably why he wanted to get a prenup. I just think it's unfortunate. One felt like he had to get a prenup with this person, which lets me know that there was a level of just mistrust there or just uncertainty, which probably tells me that it probably shouldn't have gone to marriage anyways, So
You mean gone all the way to the altar?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Do you think, let's say, out of all of that fallout and hoopla that happened and them turning away, because there was a point where I think she called it off. I think she said, well, you know what? If you're I love you, I want to get married. If you don't want to go down the aisle because of a prenup, then there's no wedding. And I think I might be, recalling that incorrectly, but I believe that's what he said from, his video. Well, what I wanted to ask you was...
No, hold on, say it again.
It seemed as though she called off the wedding.
No, she didn't call it off.
I thought he said that she called it off.
No, she didn't call it off.
Okay, I don't know the facts.
He said she was crying and said, "Fine, okay, I'll sign the prenup." No, she didn't. She didn't call it off.
Well, it seemed as though she had got, okay, I don't know the facts. I don't think we're going to sit here and go back and forth about it, because it's just leading me to, my next question. Do you think that, when after all that hoopla, when they turn away, from one another and they go back to their corners, they settle down from like the heat of it all, he's upset that she didn't sign the prenup. She's upset that he's refusing to walk down the aisle if she don't sign the prenup. Do you think that once they come back together, that they could then turn around and get married? As far as them, saying, you know what, this was dumb. I really do want to be with you. I love you. Let's just, get the prenup and let's just go for it from there.
No, absolutely not. No, not at all. No.
You don't think that they could work through? Okay.
Because, two things. One is pride. You have people flying in from out of town who probably took days off or probably spent money to come to your wedding, and then you don't get married? No, there's no way. No. Too much pride. You think I'm going to marry somebody who let me get to come this far only to not go through with it, and then later on down the road we get married again? I'm not saying it probably hadn't been done before in the past, but I'm just saying I don't, with this guy, the fact that he didn't do it, I didn't see him doing it anyways. Plus, in the video, before he got to the part about the wedding that he already had it in his mind that he wasn't going to marry her if she didn't sign it. So, no.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. But, okay, so you've been embarrassed, like, in front of your friends and family. He felt like he needed to stick to his guns. And you know what? If I'm honest, I do believe that may have been a good decision to stick to his guns about like, no, sign the prenup. Not to say that, I'm not God and I don't know how things would have turned out had they, proceeded on into a marriage relationship. However, like, just as me, as we're talking through it, I'm thinking about it and I'm like, if he really felt as though she could not be trusted, that maybe one day she would walk away, because I've heard from different celebrities who have put their lives on display that when it comes to prenups, it's very difficult because you're essentially planning your breakup. You're planning, in the most happiest time of your life, you're planning to break up, basically. So like, as we're planning this wedding, as I'm planning to, walk down the aisle, spend the rest of my life with you, I want it to be a fairy tale, but now we're talking about an exit strategy. Like, how's it going to look to leave one another? And it's like, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to look to that. But, because he kept referring back to like, okay, she knew it was on the prenuptial agreement. She knew, but it's almost as though it's hard to really want to focus in on that, because that's just like if someone was to come up to you to say, like, on the day of your birth or on the day of your child's birth, say like, okay, I know this is the most happiest time of your life, but like, if they die today, like, do you want to get insurance? It's kind of like, get out of here with all that. Like, I don't want to think about, I don't want to think about losing a child, or I don't want to think this is like the most happiest time of my life. I don't want to think about that today.
I think in that situation, yes, I know people personally who have agreed to prenup. So I think it's not always a bad thing.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Well, what I'm saying is that it's not. I hear what you're saying, and I agree in some cases, but I think in a lot of cases, people actually agree to do that. Like, people were like, my mom and pops left me all this estate. You're a rapper, you have money. Let's just say I love you, but let's just say right about agreement saying that we leave the marriage with what we came with and nothing more, nothing less. Okay, cool. I love you. Boom, boom, boom. It's done.
But that's hard though, because it's not hard. That is hard. You leave with what you come into the marriage with. But what about the things that you get while you're married? Like, that those you guys get together, like no, but that's what people fight over. We know that they could be replaced, but they fight over the house that they bought together, the car, the boats, the children. They fight over those things that they've grown together. And I think that's what makes the prenup really hard. It's not as cut and dry or black and white as it may seem and as it sounds. It's almost like, I've built this life with you. Like right now, if you and I were to separate and it's like, okay, well, you take all the things that you have come here with, I take all the things that I've come with. The different changes that we've been through in our marriage, where maybe at one point in time, like, you always mentioned that when I first met you, like, I was making more money than you. And now, you're making more money than I am. And it's just almost like, who's to say that, okay, well, I bought like these, I bought these tools, you bought those tools. I bought these pots, but then we got those pots, or we had gotten this house together, or we had gotten that bedroom set. So do you want this or do you want that? Like it almost breaking up things like that, or trying to split things down the middle, cut and dry. It sounds very foolish. Whether or not, you want to admit it, it sounds very foolish. And at what point, like, if you even follow through with like the marriage and then you follow through with the divorce for whatever reason, because marriage is difficult.
Do you remember what I said on one of our first podcasts we did?
What did you say? No.
I said I was watching a interview with somebody rich millionaire online, and they said love is for broke people. I said no. I say all that.
I remember that.
I say all that to say, like, what you talking about? It sounds good to somebody that make 35, 50 grand a year. Yeah, it sounds real good. Yeah, baby, I love you. Your prenup would be dishonorable. Yeah, but when you got me, it means that I was in the bank. Yeah, I don't care about none of that. They don't care about, like, do you actually think that somebody with that kind of money cares about a woman or a man? They can buy 20 men. They can buy 20 women. They don't care. They don't look at it the way we look at it. So, I mean, no.
And that's the part that's sad to me.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you 100% about, it's wicked. It's not right. It would make the marriage very strenuous. But it's like, dude, like, you're looking at something from the perspective of somebody who makes less than $100,000 a year. These people think on a wholly different atmosphere. They don't think how you think.
So hold on. So are you saying that because they don't think how I think, which I understand that. I mean, I don't expect them to. I mean, their situation is totally different, and they probably have to make a lot more decisions than I do, from day to day.
Yeah.
And they have to be a lot more careful. But when you talk about like celebrities, or you talk about like NBA players or what have you, people who are just around a large sum of money, or they have to move and operate a large sum of money, are you also saying that because they are in those realms, that they don't have access to the same type of love and relationships that we have access to?
No, they do. But what I'm saying is they just look at it differently. They may be a little more cautious before they get married. We might, I know you for a year or 7 months. I'll marry you if you
why?
divorce
Because
me.
we don't got nothing to lose.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. You got nothing to lose.
God.
I ain't got nothing for your take. So
I mean, no, I got something to lose. I do. I mean, shoot. I have my life to lose. I have time to lose. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's something that, okay, I can't say it right now, but if, I'm already married. Because I was going to say, if I was to come into a large sum of money or an inheritance and was like looking to get married, but I'm like, well, we already married. So I don't even want to put that scenario out there.
It's different.
So, but still, like, because they can buy like 20 different wives or husbands or what have you, it's almost like, if that's the case, why not get with like a rich doctor or someone who is making that type of wealth or whatever?
A doctor ain't got nothing on these guys, man. A doctor probably makes pennies to what these guys make. Like, again,
I mean, it depends on what type of doctor you are.
It still makes pennies.
There got to be low income doctors compared to some higher income doctors or plastic surgeons.
It's funny because last year somebody that I know made $200,000 a year. So me and some of my buddies, we were looking like, well, what class is that? And do you know that's still middle low class?
Yeah,
it's still low class. It's like, okay, $200,000 a year, which is probably more money than I've ever made for my life. That is still low class. That's middle low. So it's like, compared to these guys, you make pennies. And I mean, I know to us, like, hey man, I made $200K this year. It's like, okay, to these guys, you just made pennies. And
hey, my riches are stored up in heaven.
And
so
while I don't necessarily, we don't necessarily agree with prenuptial wedding, or marriage, obviously, because we didn't get one, but also we don't have millions of dollars in the bank to preserve, if something goes south. So I understand. And I did want to say that for a lot of these guys who may have been with women like LeBron James, who've been with his wife since they were children. It's like, yeah, that's different. Like, I'm sure they don't have one. That's different. Like, I've known you since I was a kid in high school. Like,
I don't know. She probably secured that before he got the contract. So
I mean, but what I'm saying is that when you in a relationship with a woman or a man before you become rich, then that's different because you know that their attention is not on your money, it's on you because they was with you when you was broke, when you have nothing. So I think in those situations, I'm pretty sure the person or persons wouldn't care about a prenup. But in those where you make millions of dollars and you meet somebody, you guys decide to get married, of course, I mean, I would even say it may even be wise, to get one if you are unsure of the person's intentions. But again, if you're unsure of the person's intentions, why do you even get married in the first place? But that's just, my take on it. Thank you guys for rocking with us today. Please comment, share your thoughts. What do you think about a prenuptial agreement in marriage? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Why? We would love to hear your thought and your opinion on it. Again, as we stated in the beginning of the podcast, you can follow us or listen to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and TuneIn. And please follow us on Facebook at About This Love. Until next time, peace.